First of all, as a Bengals fan, miss me with that negative bullshit. Welcome to the jungle, Bengals fans. I'm Kyle Phelps, and it still hurts. But, as I said in the Super Bowl recap video, you really have to appreciate what this team was able to do. In Joe Burrow's second year, man, they were literally within 10 to 11 yards of giving Evan McPherson a chance to send the Super Bowl to halftime. And within like 2, maybe 1.5 seconds of Joe Burrow finding Jamar Chase for what probably would have been the game-winning touchdown. Unfortunately, neither of those things happened, so now, unfortunately, there seems to be this narrative out there that Joe Burrow has no chance of ever going back to the Super Bowl because typically Super Bowl losing quarterbacks don't, especially Super Bowl losing quarterbacks in their debut year. So it got me thinking, how accurate is that? How often has the Super Bowl loser totally collapsed the following year? And how often do they come back at some point? How often do they come back and win the following year? Is Joe Burrow really cursed to never ever rebound after this loss? Before we get into that, I'd just like to ask that you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. It really helps my channel out, and it helps you to be the first to know when we put out all of this awesome content. I've got plenty of interesting, fun ideas saved up in the bank, but if you want to see something specific, let me know in the comments below, and if it's better than what I have in mind, then I might use your video, and I'll give you credit on the video too. Also, don't forget to check out the Battle of Ohio podcast clips that I put out twice a week. That will be continuing throughout the offseason. So, we've been hearing it all week. Super Bowl losers never come back and win the following year, right? The Super Bowl hangover is real, and the Bengals are doomed in 2022. First of all, as a Bengals fan, miss me with that negative bullshit, but from an objective standpoint, how correct is that really? Well, let's go back and look at the last 10 Super Bowl losers. Starting off, we've got the 2011 New England Patriots. I'm sure you all remember that they went to 4 more Super Bowls after that loss and won 3 of those 4. Then the 2012 San Francisco 49ers did collapse, but that was due to a very unique set of circumstances. I'm not going to get into the whole Colin Kaepernick debate on this channel because this is not a political channel, but I think we can all agree that him and his coach Jim Harbaugh exited the league in a fairly unique fashion. The 2013 Denver Broncos lost, and then they came back to win the whole thing just 2 years later behind a quarterback who really just honestly didn't deserve to win that title. So we're not exactly talking about some great quarterback outlier there either, even though it was Peyton Manning. The 2014 Seattle Seahawks haven't made it back since, but they did make it to the playoffs every year but 2 since. Doesn't look like a total collapse to me until we get to the 2021 season, and that's 7 years later, so I think that's a little bit removed from a Super Bowl loss. Then we've got the 2015 Carolina Panthers. Here's actually a good example of what people are talking about. They went 6-10 the following year. They made it to the playoffs in 2017, and every year since then they've had a losing record. They moved on from Cam Newton, which the Bengals are not going to move on from Joe Burrow that quickly, but it is, kind of what people are talking about. So yes, total collapses after Super Bowl losses do happen. I mean, you could make the same connection to the 2016 Atlanta Falcons, although they were right back in the playoffs in 2017. They completely collapsed after that, but they made it to the divisional round in 2017, which was, as you know, 2 games away from the Super Bowl. So, in theory, if they had kind of stayed hot, they could have made it back to the Super Bowl. And, as everybody knows, if you make it to the playoffs, then you just really got to get hot, and, anything can happen at that point. Next up, we've got the 2017 New England Patriots. They lost to the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl, which was a team, by the way, that won the Super Bowl and pretty much immediately collapsed after the fact. So I'm sure people would be trying to say that the Bengals are going to collapse even if they had won the Super Bowl. The Patriots, on the other hand, came back and won it all the following year. So don't act like it doesn't happen, first of all. And the team that they beat, by the way, the following year was the LA Rams. You know, the team that the Cincinnati Bengals are modeled after, the team that they just lost to in the Super Bowl. They've been in the playoffs every year but one since that loss, and then it took them just 3 years to go win the Super Bowl. The next team that lost in the Super Bowl was the San Francisco 49ers with Jimmy G at quarterback. They did miss the playoffs last year, but they came right back this year, and they were within one Jaquiski Tart interception of making it right back to the Super Bowl this year, over the team that ended up winning it all. Finally, the Kansas City Chiefs lost the Super Bowl in 2020 and came right back in a very similar fashion to the San Francisco 49ers within an epic collapse of making it back to the Super Bowl this year themselves. Don't forget, the Bengals were down 21-3 at one point, and the Kansas City Chiefs were supposed to be the team going to the Super Bowl. My biggest takeaway from all of that, yeah, there was a stretch when Super Bowl losers weren't doing so hot after the fact. But the 2017 Patriots pretty much changed that narrative and flipped it on its head when they came back to win it all the following year. So I wouldn't say that that's a trend right now. Going back a little farther, there's actually plenty of encouraging results from Super Bowl losers. For those of you who watch the Battle of Ohio podcast, you'll already know what I'm talking about with this stat, but the Bengals' turnaround under Zach Taylor isn't exactly entirely unprecedented. Yes, it's rare, but Tom Landry's Cowboys went 5-20-2 in his first 2 seasons as head coach. Yes, that's 2 ties. I know, that's kind of an insane stat. But his Cowboys eventually went on to play in 5 Super Bowls and win 2 of them. And then the part I didn't mention about the Cowboys is that they lost their Super Bowl debut trip, which is the one that everybody keeps talking about, in 1970 to the Baltimore Colts, and came back to win it all the following year in 1971 over the Miami Dolphins. A Miami Dolphins team, by the way, that just the very next year came back and won it all in an undefeated fashion. So just go a few more years down the road, and the Broncos give us something to look forward to. They drafted this guy that you've probably never heard of. You know, it's just some little-known guy named John Elway who went first overall in 1983. The Broncos made it to the Super Bowl in his 4th season, 1986, where they promptly got absolutely smacked by the New York Giants. What did they do the very next season? Well, they made it back. You know, they did get blown out by Washington, and that's unfortunate, but they made it back 2 years later in 1989, and then they lost 55-10. And then, man, I know Broncos fans were feeling drained at that point, you know, but, you know, they came back later that decade, and they won 2 in a row right before John Elway retired. So, you know, once again, we're talking about the theme of making 5 Super Bowls and only winning 2 of them. So this narrative that the Cincinnati Bengals cannot do it this year is just patently false. It really just kind of depends on how they build their team. So how are you guys feeling about it? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll feature the best ones in my next video. Like this one from Bob, who said, you got a free 7 points against Ramsey with that face mask personal foul. You should have lost by 10. And I'm sorry, did I say that was one of the best comments? This one was actually garbage. I don't know what you're thinking, Bob. I wanted to talk about this anyway, though, because it's a complete load of crap and we needed to dispel this nonsense. First of all, the officials addressed this particular call after the game, and they said they didn't believe there was enough contact to warrant a flag. And look, I already said I don't want to blame the refs for what happened in that game, but are you really bringing up the refs when Logan Wilson got absolutely robbed of a clutch pass breakup on the final drive? Refs were letting them play all game up until that drive, so don't come at me about some weak-ass face mask conspiracy. If anyone has the right to be mad about the refs, it's Bengals fans. But again, I'm not trying to take that road unless y'all are going to bring it up like that. But I just wanted to go ahead and address this dumb narrative about teams and quarterbacks who lose their Super Bowl debut before we all jump into talking about next season. Until then, you can always find more of what I do at KylePhelps92 on Twitter, Facebook.com/ThePhelps, the Battle of Ohio podcast, which is available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, my Bengals coverage at atbnetwork.com/Cincinnati Bengals, and right here if you subscribe. So that's it for this one, guys. I hope I was able to clear up some of the misconceptions and break up some of the worry that Joe Burrow is doomed to turn out like Dan Marino. So I'll leave y'all, as always, with a hootie!